Hi guys, alright. Many of you here know me from Instagram where I had an update account where I translated both tweets and old tweets and news as well. So now I've decided to stop the update account, and in doing so I decided that it would be better for me to have on YouTube videos that could help you to learn Korean and rely on yourself instead of relying on a translator for translations. And then you would open up a whole new world for yourself where you can understand things at a deeper level, as opposed to only what a translator translates for you and explains to you. So in this video I'm going to tell you what I did, all the stuff that I did personally, my experience, as well as the resources that I used. It's not a very organized video, so forgive me. It's gonna be a little bit jumbled up. You may see me in different locations, I don't know, because I'm just recording this on a day where I have to work, so I'm gonna do a little bit here and there. Anyway, so first let's start by explaining something really important that every language learner needs to know. It's not just about the Korean language, but basically any language. When you're learning any language, you have to understand that knowing the culture of the country whose language you are learning is very, very important. Okay? Culture influences language and language structure and usage of the language. So it's really important that you understand these two go hand in hand. So make sure you are open to learning the culture along with the language, and also then it helps you to understand better when sort of like insider slang or stuff like that is being used. So in Korea, for Korean, you should know that there are different sort of classes for their speech. There's, you know, formal speech, polite speech, and then there's casual speech. I've been a translator for 3 years now, and I've noticed how a lot of people on the internet seem to misuse the language. Now, you know, if I'm telling you something that maybe you have done wrong, please don't take offense. Part of learning a language is accepting that you have made mistakes and learning from them and moving on. And you cannot be embarrassed and you cannot be shy, because it's something that you have to overcome. Trust me, I went through this, I know, and I had to force myself to overcome all these little things that sort of like affected me, like, oh my god, I made a mistake, I don't want to learn this anymore. It's like, yeah, so you have to accept that mistakes have to be made while you're learning any language, even your own, you know, the one that you're speaking, the one that you were born with. So okay, so first off, I'm going to talk about the motivation to learn Korean. I think everybody might have different motivations, but you have to keep that motivation strong. For me, it was my job. I started learning Korean to be better at my job, and so I got into K-pop as a result of learning Korean, because I thought it would help me learn Korean better. Now, for most of you, you're already into K-pop and you want to learn Korean because of it. So I think mine was like the other way around. Regardless, having a motivation is very good. So you have to keep that in mind. Like, that's what's supposed to inspire and motivate you every day. So another thing that you have to remember is everybody learns differently. Everybody learns at a different rate also. So another question that I get very often is, how long did it take for you to learn Korean? Now, I really don't like this question, because you have to understand that everybody learns at a different rate. Some people are better at learning languages than others, and some people catch on just a lot more quickly. If you are lagging behind, or you're feeling like, oh my god, my friend only took a year and I'm still here struggling at 4 years, no, it's okay. It's your own pace. It also depends on how much time and effort you're willing to put in. Now, as a like, I started learning, I didn't take any classes. It was self-taught. It was but I was determined. I don't like a classroom environment because I feel like it hinders me from learning exactly the way that I want to learn, because I know best what motivates me and what doesn't. So I tried apps, and then I realized that no, apps aren't the way to go for me. It might work for you, but unfortunately, if you're into apps and learning that way, I'm sorry, okay, so this particular tip may not be for you, but there's others in this video that might be helpful for you. There's more than one resource. When you're learning a language, there's always you need to learn a whole different bunch of ways, because you'll get bored with one way. Anyway, I'm going to show you the textbook that I use in a couple minutes. So I use a textbook. I used a website that helped me get Korean friends. I'm going to show you that later also, and explain the pros and cons of that as well, because every resource has its pros and cons, of course, and I want to thoroughly take you through everything so that you're prepared, and you're able to choose exactly what's best for you, what's the best way for you. So okay, so what I was saying was that, first off, culture and language. Secondly, don't compare yourself to other people. Don't ask how long it took somebody to learn something, because it could be different from you. It's totally different. Everybody learns differently, okay? And don't ask what is a shortcut. I really hate when I get questions like that, because it shows to me that you don't want to bother to learn something well, and it's so disrespectful to a language if you're like, what's the shortcut to learning a language? There's no such thing, alright? If you want to learn something, you have to commit to it, just like everything else in life. You don't put in 10% effort and expect back 100% results. There's no such thing. Okay, that's probably why you fail in school if you do that. So anyway, okay, so I'm gonna show you my textbook first, and then come back, and I'm gonna tell you something else, and that's the way the video is gonna go. This is my first time making such a video, so I'm sorry. It's gonna get better, I promise. Okay guys, so here is the book that I was talking about. It's called Korean Grammar in Use. Beginning, supposed to be beginner, I guess. It's by 안진명, 이경아, and 한우영. Okay, so they ignore the sticker. Okay, the book doesn't come with the sticker. I put it there. Okay, so it does contain a lot of very useful information, and it's put out for you in a very structured way. Okay, this is about all the authors and stuff, and it does provide you with a lot of very useful information, along with little assessments that you can do. Let me show you. So here's the list of contents. So it's actually quite a thick book, if you notice, and it's not with big stuff either. It's actually with a lot of very little words, and what did I put there? 아직. Anyway, so if you can see, there's actually a lot of things for you to study, and they actually teach you very useful things. This is the best book that I could find out there, and I would recommend this book as the best one. I bought this in Korea, and you can actually try to look for it at the local bookstore, but they put the price at the back. It comes with the CD. I gave the CDs away to someone who would use a CD, because I don't. And this is the website that you can go to: www.daragwon.co.kr. And it does say at the back here that you can visit the website to learn more about the other books that they might have. There's a whole range for you. These are the best textbooks that I've found out there, and let's show you like some of the exercises. I didn't even do the whole book. See, it's like so blank right now. But yeah, it's very, there's a lot of English for this beginner. There's also an intermediate book, like if you can see from this page. I have the green one too. The green one is more difficult. Although actually now the latest publication, instead of green, it is now purple. I checked in a bookstore. So that's more advanced, and they also like there's a lot more in Korean. Like 70% of the book is in Korean because they expect you to already know since it's an intermediate level. So it's good. It's good for writing. I guess the CD helps you. Look at how my handwriting used to be. It used to be all like very weird and I don't know. But it's not, my handwriting's not like this anymore. Oh, by the way, there's an answer key at the back, so you know whether you got it right or not. You can check. Anyway, so I highly recommend this book. And if you guys are gonna get it, or if you guys already have it, please let me know. So this is actually a super good book. Okay, so that was the textbook. Now, I searched in local bookstores, like Singapore bookstores. They do sell that. So try to look for it at your local bookstore, or you can search for it online, since I already showed you like the name and the publisher and everything. Now, I got this textbook in early 2013, I think. So I started learning in very early 2013, maybe January or February. And while learning, so I told you I got into K-pop because I told myself that a way to read Korean faster is if you are like singing along to lyrics, and that's the way that I excuse me, that's the way that I devised myself. I told you I know best how I like to learn, so I told myself I like to sing and I like to sing along to songs. So if I started listening to Korean songs, I would want to sing along, and then looking at lyrics in Korean, not in the romanized version. If you look at it in Korean and you want to sing along, that's your drive. It forces you to read the Hangul faster. So yeah, and I started getting into K-pop, and I started getting into BTS, so very early 2013, before they debuted. And back then I still relied on some form of translation. I didn't know any translators back then, but I tried to translate their tweets myself. So it was like, again, like I said, it was a great motivation to learn, is when you start enjoying something and you really want that, you want to be able to understand them. So reading, being able to read Hangul is really important. Do not rely on romanization. And another thing that you need to learn is that you will be tempted to translate directly from the language that you normally speak. I'm gonna go with English since that is my experience. Okay, so I used to always think that translating directly from English to Korean, that's gonna be the sentence that I use, and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel so pro, I translated this sentence directly. And then you'll realize that because different languages have different sentence structures, that's not gonna be an accurate Korean sentence. So you cannot do that. It is not, yeah, don't do that. It's bad. It's gonna turn out bad. Like, it's gonna look like you succeeded, but there's no one to tell you whether that's correct or not. You're gonna feel like you're right, but you're not. So if you have like Korean friends and all that, okay, the thing is, if you have Korean friends and then you ask them, like, oh, so is this correct? A lot of them will tend to tell you yes, even if it's not correct, because they're too polite to point out your mistakes. And a real friend, because this is from my own experience, okay? I asked one person, they said, yeah, sure, it's correct, it looks great, you're doing good, you know, your Korean's doing good. And then I asked a friend who was actually a friend, who's not afraid to tell me that I'm wrong. And then she was like, no, you shouldn't use it like that, and you shouldn't use this word, and it's you know, the sentence structure is wrong. And then she can explain to me why, because she's not afraid to offend me, because she's like a friend, a buddy already. So you have to be aware of this, that Koreans usually tend to take the, I wouldn't say cowardly, but the very polite, I don't want to offend you way out, and just like say, yeah, you're doing great, your Korean's so good, and then you're gonna feel like, yeah, you're doing great and that your Korean's so good. But again, not to offend you, but it really, it's really not there. I mean, I'm just saying this because I've been through that, and I've been deceived by the feedback that I've gotten. And once I started realizing that, then that motivated me to work even harder, because I don't want these people to lie to me. So I had to rely on several really good friends to correct me, but I also didn't want to keep bothering them by constantly badgering them with like, is this correct? Am I doing okay? Oh, how is this good? So I didn't. I relied a lot on myself, and then I tried to speak in Korean with them. And if they got my meaning exactly the way I wanted, then I knew that I was doing okay, that I was on the right track. So when asking about whether you're making a mistake, ask a good friend that you can trust, okay? And when you're trying to check if, when you're trying to self-check if like what you're doing is correct or not, then speak to a complete stranger and see if they understand you. That is the way. I don't know if I'm making sense or not. I should have been more organized with my thoughts. I'm sorry. Okay, anyway. So this is, yeah, so that's something that important that you have to remember, is Korean culture usually gets the people to be really polite. So that also involves little white lies to you. So please understand, all the Korean people are just gonna be like, oh, your Korean's amazing. Even if you can speak just one sentence, and that sentence you took it like from some website or textbook, and then, yeah, and then they're just gonna tell you, your Korean's great, you're so good at it. But yeah, don't trust that. It's the same as when Korean idols speak like a couple of English sentences, and we're like, oh, his English is so good. His pronunciation is perfect, but then again, it could be that he memorized those 2 or 3 sentences. Like, he probably took like an hour to memorize, I don't know, I'm just saying. He probably took like an hour to memorize them or something, and then he got it like so perfect, right? And then for that particular interview, he said those sentences, and then everybody is impressed, like, oh, his English is so great. So that's the same thing. That's the same thing as when you're a Korean learner, and then you say these like couple of sentences that you got from somewhere or you've practiced it, and then the native speaker is going to be so impressed with what you said. So take it as a little bit of encouragement to do more, but don't take it as an excuse to slack off. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so that's about having a friend for conversation. So since we're talking about having Korean friends to help you out with your conversation, I'm going to show you now the conversation exchange websites that I used to get Korean language exchange buddies. But then I will also be telling you the pros and cons of that, and at which stage of learning you should be doing that. Everybody's always excited to get Korean friends to talk to. I definitely understand that, because you're excited to use the language that you learned, which is great. But there's a right stage to do that, because yeah, I'll tell you while I show you the conversation exchange website. There's a couple that you can choose from, and I'll be showing you both and explaining to you what's great about them, what's not great about them, and when you should be using them. So here we go. Okay guys, so here is an example of a conversation exchange website where you can find friends that speak the native language that you want to learn. It can be any language that you want, not just Korean. So this is actually really useful if you're learning, say, Japanese or Spanish or anything like that. I'm not going to go through the website with you because it's very self-explanatory. Like, you can just sign up and follow the instructions very easily. But we're going to linger here for a second while I explain to you when is a good stage to find a language partner. Through experience, I have found that a lot of Koreans on conversation exchange websites or language exchange websites, they are interested in learning English, but they're not very good at telling you why something is the way it is in their language. For example, if you say, why do I have to do polite speech, or when do I have to do polite speech, because they've been practicing it since young, it's like automatic. And so they don't know the explanation for it, or they're not good at explaining it. And also, they are very bad at enforcing it with foreigners, because they feel like, oh, with foreigners, they don't have to follow normal Korean rules. So they are setting actually a very bad example for you. And they immediately start with 나는, and they don't put yo at the end of sentences, which should be present at all times when you're speaking with somebody for the first time. And so often, I'll catch them doing it, and I'll be like, why do you use 반말? 반말 is informal speech. Like, why do you use that with me? You just met me. And they're like, oh, ha ha ha, I didn't know you knew about that. And then they would start being polite to me. Like, not polite, as in then they would start using polite speech with me. So actually, so do you see how a lot of them respond like that? It means like they got caught doing what they're not supposed to do. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you knew about that. So now I'm going to actually start using the correct way of speaking with you. So a lot of them are like this. Trust me, so much. So it's actually really, really bad. So make sure you have a very strong foundation first of what is polite speech, formal speech, and casual speech before you start talking to someone, and immediately show that you have this understanding with them, and then they will respond to you like how they would respond to another Korean, which is exactly what you want, because when you want to try and speak Korean well, you want to be as close to native as possible, and people should be responding to you in the same way that they would respond to a native Korean speaker. I hope you're understanding what I mean, because this is so important. A lot of Koreans really, they think like, oh, foreigners, no need to respect, you know. They're just like all like that, and they have a lot of stereotypes about us foreigners as well. If you want, I can get into that in another video, but honestly, not a lot of it is really bad. So anyway, based on experience, this was not very helpful. Unless you find someone like an adult, for example, who is older, much older, they are very, very much more likely to go with normal Korean society, like polite standards, and go with the traditional ways, which is what you want to learn. And they are probably able to explain things better. Sometimes they list ages on here, I would think. It depends on the website. Like, this is the other website right here, mylanguageexchange.com. And this one, I guess, has a more comprehensive search and stuff. I don't think you get to put pictures on there or anything. Maybe this one does. I think so. The previous one you can't. Which is good, because you're not here to, like, fall in love. Just pick someone that you think looks educated and interested in teaching you the right way. But again, it's up to you. I mean, what I'm telling you is for the best learning experience. And making sure that you're learning the right things. If you just want a Korean friend, like, it doesn't matter if you're learning or not, then use these websites by all means to make friends, you know? Yeah, so that's all that I have to say. That's why I talked about being at the right stage of learning if you are wanting to use pen pals or chat buddies, because you have to have the correct foundation first before you let someone, like, you know, so that you know whether someone's trying to teach you properly or not. So, okay. That's all I have to say so far about language exchange websites. Okay, so now that you've seen that, I hope that you use it with just carefully. Just use it carefully. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about isn't optional. It's like a bonus round. Okay, if you can get yourself a partner, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that's Korean, while you're learning Korean, that helps your Korean a lot. Now, people usually say this, like, if you can get a boyfriend or girlfriend that natively speaks the language that you're trying to learn, then you improve really fast. And it's true, it's so true. So I think in my first or second year of learning Korean, before I became a translator, a Korean boy wanted to date me, so, and it wasn't even in Korea, it was in Singapore, the country that I live. So yeah, we both knew that it wasn't going to be a serious thing. Like, we both had this mutual understanding that it was going to be sort of a fling thing. But hey, I wasn't doing anything else at the time, and he was an attractive dude, so why not? And so we started going out and we did normal things. Like, you know, we went bowling, we went to the arcade, and he didn't speak much English, and my Korean was still like kind of, I wouldn't say too basic, but decent at the time. So he took advantage of that, and he didn't want to speak English, so he spoke in Korean all the time. And it was great, because when you're out with somebody and you're experiencing something together, and then he's speaking in Korean, so you can like sort of understand and associate the words, and at the same time you're learning those words and the context that they should be used for. So it was such it was a great time. Like, even though we were together only like a couple of months, like 2 months, but it helped my Korean so much, because we did a lot of things together, and again, like the contextual words for like daily use, it really helped me to improve by so much. So that was really useful. If you can get that, that's great. It's also fun and nice. Well, let me tell you, he was a shit boyfriend, okay? So he's not like one of those people from dramas that are all like super dedicated to the girls and all that. We had some Korean drama moments, but yeah, overall he was a pretty shitty boyfriend. So but of course I don't regret it, because my Korean improved so much because of that experience. I always see the bright light, the bright side of things. So again, this is optional. Don't try it if you get your heart broken easily, or you're not prepared for a relationship or anything like that. I'm just saying that helps if there's an opportunity that comes up. Why do I keep doing this? I don't know. So I'm gonna stop it now. Okay. Next, it's very handy if you have a text, not a textbook, but a notebook. Why is this blurry? I don't understand. If you have a notebook, I had a lot of notebooks. So, okay, I'm going to show you an old notebook of mine. I had a notebook in which I wrote down a lot of things. So now we're international fans, so what we do is we rely on websites to watch our shows and stuff. So it's easy to pause whenever you like. So whenever I watch variety shows, okay, so variety shows are the shows where they speak most naturally to each other, most naturally. And it's not like in dramas, it's always scripted, right? With that kind of tone and that kind of wording chosen to convey the emotion that the writer wanted. But in variety shows, like just shit just happens naturally, and it's funny, and you know that's when they're most natural, is when they're excited and it's not scripted. So that's what you need to be looking out for, is when people speak naturally like that. Don't focus on the idols, maybe focus on the hosts of variety shows, because then they're speaking most naturally. But at the same time, before you do this kind of thing, trying to pick up natural phrases, little phrases, or words for learning, vocabulary words that you need to learn, again, you have to always understand about the culture part, which needs to be present in all situations, is the polite speech, or formal speech, or casual speech. Okay, now I'm gonna explain all about that in another video. Please comment down below if you want me to, because if you feel like you don't need that, then I'm not gonna make that video. But it's really important, and it should be lesson number 1. It should be basic. Before you start learning the language, this is what you absolutely need to know, because or else if you're speaking to a Korean person and you're using the wrong form of speech, they're not going to tell you. They're probably just going to stop talking to you, or they're just going to let you be without ever telling you that you're rude, and then you're going to make this mistake somewhere else. From personal experience, okay, I made this mistake when I was in Korea itself. And I spoke to a lady in the store that was much older than me. I didn't use polite speech. Okay, so now I'm a big advocator of polite speech. And she was so offended. She was angry. She's angry. She let me know she was angry. She let the other person in the store know she was angry. And I felt terrible after that. I was so apologetic. And then I made sure to know after that, like, what I should have said, the way I should have said it, what kind of speech I had to use. And the reason why I keep emphasizing on it is because I don't want other people to go through this, because number 1, I don't want you to feel embarrassed, you know, and what did I do wrong, and nobody to correct you. And number 2, as like international fans or tourists from other countries, we're sort of representing where we're from, and we always want to be polite to and respect the culture of another country. You know what I mean? So there's no reason that we should ignore the basic courtesy, the manners, the ways of another country, and be all like, I don't care, you know, that's just rude. So, and I want you to know that by knowing and understanding another person's culture, it does not make you, this term that I hate, Koreaboo, okay? Don't listen to the other people that want to stop you from learning something, and stop you from learning something the correct way, just because they decided that this is a term that they enjoy using and calling other people. Fuck them, okay? That should be like, fuck them. If you're doing something, if you're learning something the right way, and you want to use what you've learned, and you want to learn it the correct way, which is together with the culture, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. So do not allow all these other people to get in your way. They're just being uneducated, okay? They're uneducated, uncultured swine if they think that they've got the right to label some people something like that. So anyway, yeah, if you want me to make a video on the different types of speech, polite speech and formal speech and that kind of thing, and explain clearly to you how it works, and explain to you certain terms and all that, I'd be happy to. Just let me know in the comments that you want me to do that. So you guys know that I've been to Korea, well, like, I don't know, 10 times by now, and every time I go I stay there for like a month, and I've got so much experience, personal experience with the people there and the culture there, and you know my reputation already. I always bring you the most accurate translations and news and cultural explanations, so I hope that you trust me to do this for you, and that you'll trust that I'm gonna lead you the right way. So again, let me know in the comments. I don't know if I've covered all the bases by now, but I will in future videos. As I go along, you'll pick up more tips and helpful things. So thanks for listening so far, and I hope that this has been very useful for you. Please do give me feedback in the comments and other questions too, so that I can answer them in the future in future videos. Alright? Bye guys.